There are moments when the game is sometimes good and also at the same time bad. It just strikes some points that it makes it both at the same time. And 007 First Light is this type of game. So how is 007 First Light so bad, but at the same time so good? First, we have to know that this game is a cinematic movie type game. It strives to be that, and sometimes it accomplishes it maybe even too well for its own good. So you are technically allowed to do whatever you want in certain sections, but that's not necessarily true. They have strictly corridor sequences with actual invisible walls. They also have strictly walking sequences where you have to listen to someone talk and you can't skip it or go faster. And they also have these open maps that try to present themselves like you can walk around and try to do different things. They are trying to genuinely like replicate their previous game. No. I'm not talking about Mind's Eye. They actually only published it, not made it. I'm talking about Hitman. So they try to kind of replicate Hitman in a few sections of the game. However, this kind of is just a mirage. So you can do something, find different ways to open the door, get into the room, or like pass some guards. But at the same time, those are like minor differences. Those are not differences that will make you want to replay the game. You, for an example, can steal the keycard from the maid, or you can just jump out of the window, walk around the balconies, and pass through the all guest room, and you are going to just maybe spend a few seconds more, but you're going to get additional conversations of like quippy dialogue with James trying to present himself as, I'm checking for asbestos, and the guy is going to be like, okay, so check it, and okay, is it everything okay? Or am I supposed to worry about it? So like, those are like minor changes. This is not something that is going to like entice you to actually replay the game. And yes, those are kind of main differences. Most of the game is just streamlined. You just walk how the game wants you to walk. And even sometimes if you think that you did something that was like creative to bypass something, turns out there was no other way and you had to do it because the game wanted you to do it, and it actually is dressed in a fashion to trick you into thinking that this was your idea. And I kinda really dislike that, like trying to present itself as something that is actually not. And for an example, you can check how restrictive this game is on the like first like level of the open level. You have chess tournament when you have the seats in the middle and everyone sits in circle watching two people play chess as a grandmaster tournament. And you can't walk up to the chessboard. The game automatically stops you, and Bond says like not this time and turns around automatically. Your boss, your supervisor for this mission, Greenway, which is also your trainer, he sits in this circle and you have him marked on the map because you have to try to avoid your teammates, because your teammates kinda you messed up, so they are putting you on a lookout on a parking lot. So your teammates aren't supposed to like see you, that you are in the building. So when you are going to be walking around, you have them marked. Bond is going to see them and like, oh my god, it's him, or oh my god, it's her. Better not to be spotted. But if they spot you, nothing happens, and your supervisor, Greenway, is marked that he is in the circle, and you can't be spotted by him. There is no way. I tried on multiple ways even. You have no way to be spotted by Greenway. You can walk from the other side, he's not going to see you. You can't walk up to him because Bond says that not this time and walks around. So like, there are things that try to trick you that the game is more open than it actually is. And it's kinda like disappointing in a way. And like I said, when anyone is going to notice you, they are just going to be unhappy that you are in this place. but they are automatically going to say, oh, that there are going to be consequences for that. Guess what? There is no consequences for the fact that Bond ignored his order and went into the building and participated in trying to stop the target. So, like, I would genuinely prefer them to just be open about it and not even try to present it like, oh, you can do something. But in fact, you can't. If you try to just actually play the game and play with it around a little bit, you are not going to be able to do anything. And the whole Mirage, the whole facade falls apart, and that's it. There are also other open maps, and those work more or less on the same basis. But for an example, when you arrive in Aleph, which is a city in the desert run by pirates, and Bauma, which is portrayed by Lenny Kravitz, you are tasked with like getting $100K to get to the auction. And you are tasked with going to the black market and making the money. You have the few options, and this is something that like probably the most like kind of freedom you get in this game, because you have few opportunities and you can just pick and choose few of them just to get 100K. The problem is that when you are doing that, you are going to stumble upon some really poorly designed things, and there's one really egregious one. But for an example, you can steal the wallet and then you have to decode it because it's a crypto wallet. You, for an example, have a moment when you can like take over the transaction over the container. You, for an example, can like pickpocket people. Fine. But then you arrive at the mission where you pay your entry fee, which is like 3K, and the guy is telling you you can win the stone. It's worth pretty huge sum. So you play the cup game with him, and as you play the cup game with him, it ends up being rigged. But it's not rigged in a way you think it is. The game wants you to use something that is called Q-Lens in the game, which kinda works like an X-ray vision. You can see the item is in the cup, right? But if you don't use it, he's going to reshuffle the cups and it's going to be exactly the same way every single time. It's every single time I tried it and I seen on streams of other people, it's always the middle one. So the game wants you to use the Q-Lens and highlight the item that it is actually in the middle cup. If you are not going to do this, and you're going to just track the cups and pick the middle cup, the guy is going to show the empty cup. But at the same time, if you're just going to highlight the item, it's going to present you with an actual item, and the guy is going to start crying that you are actually cheating and you are the thief, basically. And the guards are saying that he won, give him the prize, basically. He's forced to actually give you the win. But if I was one of the devs who worked on this game, I would be really, like, ashamed that this was put in the game. I don't know who decided that something like this, that works in this way, is a thing that you want to put inside the game that is $70, basically. This is shameful. This is just a lazy development, and I couldn't believe what I'm saying. And if it comes to the restrictiveness, well, you also on the beginning have something like the timing, because you have this like training montage and they tell you to do shit fast. Well, you don't have to, because you can just finish it in 2 minutes and the game is going to count it as finish. Sometimes they even are going to just pass the failed QuickTime event, and you can just hop into the car and they tell you to do a lap, and you can just circle around and go the opposite way. The chick is going to constantly tell you that, James, you need to go back because you're going the wrong way. But if you are going to actually finish the lap the wrong way, it's still going to count. So the time doesn't matter, the going in the opposite way doesn't matter. So like, this is kind of something that I think this game needs to be criticized for, and also for how restrictive this game is with what you're allowed to do and not. At one point, for an example, this game actually allows you to just not go through the gate and complete the training in a normal way, but you can just go out and there is a collectible to be picked. So you can only pick this collectible in this way. You have to ignore the gate, open the gate, ignore the gate, go back, and then Greenway goes out of your way and you can pick up the collectible. But you can actually just go around the entire sequence of like sneaking between the guards. You can avoid all of that. Go using the catwalk where the public is watching you from the top, basically. So you are walking in around the public, behind the public's back. You jump through the railing and you finish the training. And I'm like, how is this? I mean, they kind of go and tell you to always do the unexpected, but that kind of breaks the game, and nobody even has a problem with the fact that you just completed the training like this. However, how I'm going over negatives, there are also positives. The combat is pretty serviceable. As I was playing, it sometimes fails to accept that you parried the attack, but I think overall the combat is pretty decent and it works. Dodges are working without problem. If you actually listen to the tutorial, how to make them, which I didn't really do so I was getting my ass whooped constantly, and I just started using dodges when I checked the tutorial in achievement grind, because I was starting to grind for the achievements, and I just rechecked the recording that I had of my footage, and I read the tutorial, and I'm like, so that was something that I was doing wrong. But parries weren't like functioning sometimes. That was kinda, something is wrong with the parries in my opinion. Enemy AI is kinda on par with most modern games. So like sometimes AI is really great and it works, but all the time it's going to loop itself and the enemies are going to search for you, but they are not going to check one certain spot that you are in, and they are just going to walk in a loop. Or for an example, they will forget about you, that you even were in this room, like in 5 seconds. And this, what you see in here, this is actually a footage of a boss fight that happens in the middle of the game. I'm not joking, he actually got stuck and was walking in circles. And I do love stealth approach in the video games. However, like when you like playing this game, and when you are like nearing the end of the game, like the second half of the game, I would say, the closer and closer you get to this ending, the stealth becomes a secondary option because everything feels more action focused. And even if you have the like ability to go stealth, it's sometimes easier to just use guns, go guns blazing, kill everyone, or maybe beat them in hand-to-hand combat, because you can't just use guns whenever you want. You have to have a license to kill, meaning the enemy has to pull out the gun first. And shooting sections are really fun, and like I really enjoyed shooting them. They are kind of simplistic. I would say they are easy. I was actually playing on a hardest difficulty, but I kind of refuse to believe the bullshit that a Bond goes on every single mission with like 1 pistol and 16 bullets. Like that's complete bullshit. I don't buy it. It's stupid. You have to just kill the enemies and pick up their guns constantly, because Bond can't bring anything on his own. And even if you know that you're going to be going against some really powerful enemy, Bond is going to go on a mission with a pistol and 16 bullets. It's just crazy. If I had to compare, like for an example, the second half of the game to something, I would say it turns into like more action-packed stuff, like Quantum of Solace, which a lot of people don't like if it comes to the movie. And the game is also action-packed and shooting game. And where the first part actually requires from you some thinking, some skill, some avoiding the enemies, some playing more stealthy, the second part just turns into shooting game and run and gun. However, the biggest thing about this game is James Bond. It is a James Bond game. So James is portrayed by Patrick Gibson, and I loved him in Dexter. He was young Dexter in Dexter Original Sin that I genuinely loved. I also reviewed it on the channel. You can check it out. And I still didn't forgive Paramount for cancelling the show. Patrick is phenomenal, and I am happy he got this role. And I wouldn't mind if he would be, for an example, also a Bond in the movies. The story is transitioned into the modern day, and Bond tries to join MI6. So this is like an origin story for the modern version of Bond. And it has the different tone that you would, for an example, find in the books and in the movies. and it's still very Bond-like. I personally I don't know, I'm not a purist if it comes to any franchise. I can accept the different setting, some change if it still feels like it is the thing that it tries to be. And I would say this game does feel like Bond. This story does feel like Bond, and some people had problems with some quotes, for an example, taken and put into different characters in this game, like all the time in the world and stuff. Bond has his charm, and he hooks up with women, and he has really friendly and creepy relationship with Moneypenny, and he's constantly going against the orders on his own. And he is Bond, and I also heard some criticism, mainly from one circle online, that Bond is talked down to and belittled. And I'm like, this is the origin story for new Bond games. He isn't an agent. He's a recruit who fucked up MI6's operation, but freed the hostages. That they actually gave him 1% chances to actually free the hostages. So, and he managed to do it in the first mission. So they are interested in him, but they also don't like him because he fucked up big time. So he has the attitude that, for an example, Greenway didn't like. And as the story goes forward, a relationship between Bond and Greenway starts growing and expanding. And it's developing a relationship that it's really fun to watch, and probably the best thing in the entire story of the game. And Bond isn't belittled when he saves the day, for an example. He gets praised almost by everyone for what he does in the game. It's not like he's going to save the day and he's getting belittled. No, he's getting belittled because they have negative attitude for him, for his past actions, and for sometimes his attitude. But when he is actually going to save the day, nobody belittles him. Everyone is praising him, and it's just something that I've noticed that modern games don't really do. Sometimes you are going to be a main hero. I'm not even talking only about Bond. You're going to save the day, but everyone's going to shit on you for saving the day. And this game doesn't do that. This game actually puts a lot of praise on Bond for his actions, even if they were against the orders of the superiors. So I mean, yeah, if you hear someone saying that this game ruins Bond and how woke it is, maybe don't listen to them, I guess. The story overall, I think, really interesting. Personally, I think the story is the strongest part of the game. I loved almost every bit of it. Why almost? Because there is a penultimate chapter in this game when someone on the writing team definitely went crazy. And it wasn't really Bond-like. It felt like some crazy sci-fi game because they wanted to have one wacky gameplay mechanic in the game. And I don't think that this penultimate chapter actually fits the overall game and the tone of the game and the tone of the Bond. But that's only one chapter, and it's not damaging and not ruining the entire game overall and the entire story overall. It's just this one chapter does set up something. It still is the part of the story, this penultimate chapter. And it makes sense kinda in the story of the game, but I think it's maybe too sci-fi. However, in the movies, Bond went to space, so I'm maybe not. Maybe I'm out of touch. So now, other than that, everything, if it comes to the story, is top-notch. Disappointing things. There are two disappointing things that I had actual problem with. One disappointing thing is the thing with Lenny Kravitz. If you love Lenny Kravitz and you want to see him in this game, you're going to see him maybe for 2 or 3 minutes. These greedy bastards who made this game decided to make Lenny Kravitz send the DLC about his character Bauma. So you are going to see him for maybe 2, maybe 3 minutes in the game, and that's it. He was used to advertise the game that he's 2 minutes in. And second one, they also have something that is Valhalla in the game. A super car that has miniguns, rocket launchers, everything. You get to play with it in the story, but for a few minutes, and that's it, and never in the open. They will add Taksim mission to ride the Valhalla. And you will have actual Valhalla driving mission, and it's going to be great. That is going to be an update. We still don't know when it's going to be. I tried to search for a date. They just say coming soon. Still not out as of making this video. The missions, Taksim, are the missions in the simulation. When you have 2 operations as of now and 15 training missions called Escalation, those missions are online only. So you play them solo, as in Hitman, but at the same time you have to be online to access them, which they even introduce you to Taksim in the main story of the game, but if you are offline you get nothing. The dialogue ends that the character that is supposed to take you to the Taksim is going to take you to it, and the game just blue balls you and you are left there. The dialogue ends, that's it. You're not going anywhere because you're offline. And Taksim room also has collectibles room, so you can walk around and check every single collectible you got in the single player game. And you can check the collectibles outside of this room, because this is just a room when you can just have your all collectibles displayed, and you can check them outside of this room. There's an tab in the menu when you press the big touchpad key on the pad and from PlayStation 5, and you can just see all of the collectibles that you gathered, right? But to actually have a special room that is designated to displaying all of the collectibles on the wall and locking it under the online only requirement because it is tied to Taksim, which Taksim doesn't even have collectibles, it's so bizarre. And also, Taksim is actually the only place where you can use other outfits. You have actually some chunk of outfits to choose from, but none of them you can wear in the story of the game. You can only wear it in Taksim, which is still online locked. And if it comes to online in this game sucks, okay? The game servers are complete dog shit. During my playthrough on PlayStation 5, I was kicked offline multiple times. It halts your game, slaps you with an error on the screen, and tells you that you lost connection if you want to reconnect or go offline. I checked other people's live streams, and they had the same thing happen, no matter the platform. PS5, PC, nobody plays on Xbox. Most of the time, I'd be offline because I constantly was interrupted by the server error. And I couldn't just focus, so I just decided to be offline for a majority of the time I was playing the game. And this is how the game actually is. It is a really fun, story-driven game. It has bones of Hitman, which are great, but it suffers because it takes the bones of the actually freedom open game and suffocates those elements with the story driven idea that is not allowing you to even do most of the things that you would do. And even if it presents itself as it's going to allow you to do these things, it is going to blue ball you and tell you that you actually cannot do this. So the game starts treating you as a toddler. You drive a car, you can't even drive on grass. Why? Because there is an invisible wall in it. You can't slam into any character that stands on a road. You can't even slam into cars because it's going to just halt your car millimeters before you actually are going to hit it. So invisible walls, the characters saying that they are not going to do something because it's a no-no. You can't pull out the gun until you are not in a gunfight. So by extent, if you are going around the offices and there's plenty of glass doors, you have to just sneak out of the window, jump over the balconies, risking your life if you just could pull out your gun and shoot the glass and break it. And it's not like the glass is bulletproof, because there are moments when you actually see this glass being broken because there's a second intruder in this place. But you can't break the glass. You have to go around because the game wants you to go around. There is no freedom. You can skip most of the guards, for an example, by poisoning, and you have two guards, for an example. You can poison one guard and blind the second one. The blinding lasts 3 seconds, but you are going to be able to pass through the guards in this time. So there is something about this game that is really handholdy. It pulls you back, but at the same time it is still fun. The gameplay is fun, the story is fun, but if you expect something that would give you any open spaces and not handhold you and not blue ball you every few seconds, I think you should just try a different game, maybe play Hitman. But if you are searching for the game that is James Bond and you are just focused on getting to see the story, I think if you like Bond, this game is definitely for you. And mind that if you are also not a purist. But other than that, maybe Hitman would be a better choice.